So Alex Thomson, it's cold, it's wet, it's murky, we're in the heart of London, and you're off soon on a nice jaunt in the sun for lots of months. The Vendee, tell me all about it.
Yeah, so Ian, in a couple of weeks I will be setting sail in the Vendee Globe, so single-handed non-stop race around the world. Starts and finishes in France, come out of France, turn left, down the bottom, left to Africa, around Antarctica, left at America and back to France again. So it sounds pretty simple, and the rules are simple. You've got to take everything with you, your food, your medical supplies, and if you step foot on dry land, you're out of the race.
Now, with respect, most normal people, having heard that, would think that A, you're insane, and B, it would be their version of hell. You're smiling, man. Why?
It's, the Vendee Globe is what I've been trying to win for the last 10 years, so it's what I do, and it might be abnormal to some people, but to me it's kind of normal. But I think even when I look at it, it is the most difficult sporting challenge that exists in the world today, and that's a big reason why I want to do it.
It's a bit of a drug, isn't it, the Vendee? I mean, you've been around doing this kind of thing for a long time now. I believe you've gone around the world 7 times already, haven't you, in various races? You've had a lot of success, not in the Vendee, but pretty much in everything else. And it's just something you can't let go, is it?
Well, it's our pinnacle, really. It's our Olympics, our Everest, and over a 4-year period we do 2 round the world races. One of them is the Vendee Globe, the other one's a double-handed round the world race, and then there's other series of round Britain races, transatlantic races. But really, everything we do over that 4-year period is towards our Olympics, the Vendee Globe.
We mentioned the Olympics. Obviously, we've just had an Olympics. You, I'm sure, along with everybody else, absolutely captivated by it all. And Bradley Wiggins, first Brit to win a Tour de France, greatest ever Olympics, certainly modern Olympics for the British team. No Brits ever won the Vendee. There's a ring to this.
Well, it would be an amazing thing for a Brit, hopefully me, to win the Vendee Globe, having had the Tour de France success with Bradley Wiggins, and as you mentioned, such a fantastic summer of sport with the Olympics. So if myself or even Mike Golding or Sam Davis, they're the 3 of us in it, if one of us could go out there and win the Vendee Globe, it really would cap a fantastic 12 months.
Now, describe to the unknowing British public, they know all about you and they know about the Vendee, but they perhaps don't really know about it. Just describe what it's like at the port where you leave and where hopefully you return, Le Sable d'Olonne on the west coast of France. Just describe how big a deal it is in France.
Well, Le Sable d'Olonne is a starting port. It's a little fishing come holiday port with a nice beach. It's about 30-40 miles north of La Rochelle on the west coast, and it's got a nice little canal really that's like about a mile long that leads into the marinas. And at this place, they reckon 2 million people will go through the race village and view all the boats in the 3 weeks preceding the race. And when we leave the dock on Saturday the 10th of November, I think our boat leaves at 10:24 in the morning. When we drive out that canal, which is a mile long, there will be 500,000 people shouting the name of the skipper and the name of the boat, and it's an incredibly emotional experience.
That's astonishing. And although I guess the predominantly French crowd would like to see a French sailor win, they're very respectful, aren't they, of all of you and what you do?
I think with the competitors, it's unlike any other sport, because if something goes wrong in the Southern Ocean, when you're halfway between Africa and Antarctica, Australia and Antarctica, there really are no rescue services down there. So the rescue services come from the other competitors. So although we're fierce competitors, there is we're great comrades as well, and we're the only people that are going to rescue it. And as most people know, Mike Golding rescued me in 2006 and literally saved my life. So we're fierce competitors, we hate each other, but we love each other as well.
Well, you mentioned that. You've had some incredible lows and incredible highs. I'm not just going to focus on the lows. I guess if you do this long enough, you're going to experience both of those, aren't you? But you mentioned Mike Golding hauling you pretty much out of the sea. Both Vendees so far, you've had structural problems, haven't you, which have resulted in early retirements. And you've had a few other close shaves, haven't you? But does it stop you, does it?
No, the Vendee Globe is a race of elimination. In the last race, there were 30 starters and only 11 finished. So it really is about trying to keep your boat together. And as Sir Robert Knox Johnson said to me a long time ago, he said, "Alex, to finish first. First, you have to finish, and it's a very true saying, and it's what we've been concentrating on this time, is to make the boat reliable enough to be able to make it around the world.
Well, we mentioned the Tour de France, and there's a similarity in that. Yes, you'd like to win it, or you'd like to get a podium, but frankly, finishing the Vendee in itself is an achievement, is it not? And everybody who does it recognises it. So sure, if you win, you're the hero, you're the champion, but they all come out, don't they, to see every boat come home because they know what they've been through.
To be honest, every finisher of the Vendee Globe is a hero. 3,000 people have now climbed Mount Everest. More than 500 people have been into outer space, but less than 60 people have ever sailed single-handed, non-stop around the world in the Vendee Globe. And to be part of that select crowd, would be an amazing achievement. And this time, we're not even thinking about winning. It'd be nice to do it. It's there in the back of my mind, but really the objective is to finish this race.
Well, we mentioned some of the mishaps. Let's talk about some of the glory as well. I mean, way back now when you were almost a baby, you won the Round the World Clipper race, didn't you, as a skipper? But subsequently, certainly in recent years, you've been on a bit of a roll, haven't you? You got a second place in the, I believe, the Barcelona Round the World, which is a double-handed job. And in the last, 18 months, you've been flying, haven't you? Tell us about what you've done. And also, I guess you must be coming into this race supremely confident.
Yeah, no, it's we've had a really good last 12 months. Last year we competed in the Jacques Vabre transatlantic race and came away with a very good second place. On the way back there was a single-handed race in which we came fourth. We were fairly happy with that, as it was a qualifier and a build-up to the Vendee Globe. And this year, with a lack of ocean racing on the calendar, we did 2 single-handed transatlantics. I say we, it's me and my boat, obviously. And on the way back on this transatlantic crossing from New York, I broke the monohull transatlantic record, which was, a great achievement. So I feel supremely confident with the boat. I'm ranked 4th or 5th in the world at the moment, and I'm really looking forward to getting on with it and finishing this race.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, you've always been known to be pretty quick anyway, Alex, but you weren't necessarily aiming to do that, were you? You were just doing a training run, really, and then, lo and behold, we could actually break this record, and then you went for it.
Yeah, to do the transatlantic record was supposed to be a training exercise, and the hard thing with ocean racing is unless you're actually in a race, it's very hard to replicate the risks that you go through and the hardship. You're never going to force your body to go through what we put it through in a race in a training exercise. So the way to the record was to force that to happen, and we got very lucky. Normally in New York you'd have to wait for 3 or 4 months for the right weather window, and then you'd fly over and do it. The day we wanted to leave was the day the window was open, and I came across and knocked more than a whole day off the record.
Well, a lot of skill, a lot of bravery, and a bit of luck is always required, isn't it? And if you return to the west coast of France, you're going to need all of that, aren't you?
We'll need a certain degree of luck, but you do make your own luck. And over this period in the last 12 months, we've really been concentrating on reliability, not making the boat go faster, just concentrating on looking at every single component. And we've got 30,000 individual components on this boat, so it's so easy just for one tiny little thing to bring the whole pack of cards down.
Take us around the world, if you would, Alex. Just let's visit some of the places. Well, it's all going to be sea, obviously, but what are we going to expect? What are you going to expect, more to the point, as you travel down and round and back up again?
So we split the race up into 3 sections: the Atlantic leg, which takes us down to the Southern Ocean; then the Southern Ocean leg, which takes us, around Antarctica, past Africa, past Australia, New Zealand, and finally around Cape Horn. And then the third section is the Atlantic leg. So really, if you were to give more detail than that, then really the Atlantic leg, we try to stay with the leaders, because if you think of the Southern Ocean as a motorway, consider it the M25. If you're not the first guy to get on the motorway, then you can quickly get left behind. Slightly
less congested, I would suggest.
Yeah, it's not very congested at all, but it's very, very dangerous in a very isolated place.
So the first Atlantic leg, that's when you cross the equator for the first time. Strange things happen there, don't they?
When you go across the equator, there's an area of no wind called the doldrums, and it can be a bit frustrating sometimes, very difficult to predict what's going to happen. To be honest, I've been across it so many times now, it's not really a trouble. You just prepare for the unexpected.
Don't you get grown, hardened men like yourself suddenly throwing things in the sea as well?
Normally there's a small offering to Neptune, which is kind of a good luck thing, but it's not a big.
Like what? I mean, you've thrown champagne in the sea, haven't you, in the past?
Maybe a small bottle of champagne, but I'm not a very particularly superstitious person, but normally by the time you get down there, you feel you ought to make an offering to Neptune. Yeah. But then you've got to go through the South Atlantic, which is the first part of its trade winds,
yeah.
And then finally you get into the motorway of the Southern Ocean.
And that's when it gets really tasty, doesn't it? And I guess you're thousands of miles from anywhere, aren't you, at that point?
You're effectively in one of the most isolated parts of the world, and it's very dangerous. The sea can be taller than the mast, which is 30 meters tall. They're the waves. You rocket down these waves at 40 miles an hour, and you've got to go inside and sleep. So if I was to kind of relate it to a normal person, if you could imagine sitting alongside the legend of Colin McRae, you're the navigator, he's driving down a rally track at full whack in the middle of the night, and you've got no lights, it's pouring with rain, and you've got no windscreen. Imagine how you'd feel. And that's what it's like to be inside of this boat.
You mentioned sleep. You don't really do that, do you? You have loads of cat naps, I suppose, power naps, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, but always slightly conscious of what's going on, yeah?
Yeah, some people call it power naps. I aim to sleep for 20 to 40 minutes every 2.5 to 4 hours. For me, my objective is to get 5 hours sleep in a 24-hour period. But the reason we do it is because if you're asleep on a boat like this, the boat's going slowly. So you're really motivated not to do it. And it's tough to get into it, particularly the first few days. But once you're into it, it becomes normal and quite doable.
And apart from the sailing, I mean, how do you keep your sanity? What do you do? Do you go with a box full of CDs, a box full of DVDs? You got your laptop, you watch films, you listen to music? Or are you just too busy shifting that boat?
To be honest, you're busy so much of the time. This is a boat that really should be sailed by 8 or 10 people. So there's an awful lot to do, but it's quite nice to have a distraction. And so I take a hard drive with some movies on it, and a few books, and I can read a couple of pages or watch 10 minutes of a movie, and it just allows your brain just to kind of escape for a little bit, because it's very intense. To be in a competition for continuously for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 12 weeks is very intense.
The intense competition, I guess, though, helps to allay just the loneliness and the homesickness, I guess.
The loneliness again you get used to, and today we're lucky with the technology of being able to do video conferencing and telephone calls, and there are times when you feel lonely, but it's only for a short time. And think about what you did in the last 3 months. I bet you can't even remember 90% of it, and so the time will go quickly. It'll feel quite slow to begin with, then the middle will zip by, and the last week will take an age. But 3 months isn't actually a very long time.
All right, Alex. Well, let's hope it doesn't take long. Let's hope you get back in one piece, and let's just hope you finish. Let's not get too greedy, and let's hope if you do finish, you finish well. So, Godspeed, as they say.
Thanks very much, Jim.